Dr. Roger, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Hey, I'm delighted. This is going to be a lot of fun. I love this. I mean, this is what I love to do. I love to spread the word, you know.
I can tell. First off, tell me who you are. What's your origin story? How did you become doing what you're doing now?
So, Scott, I'm a board-certified chiropractic physician, board-certified nutritional specialist, and I've been practiced for every time I say it, I can't, 32 years, if you can imagine that.
So you started at 10 years old.
Thank you. Yes, I was a prodigy. Yeah, so I started young, and for a number of years I had the traditional chiropractic practice, which I loved. I really enjoyed that. I had a very busy practice. 100 patients a day. It was kind of crazy.
Right.
And but what I was seeing with my chiropractic patients, the hands-on patients, they desperately wanted to know what I was doing to stay healthy. And I was a triathlete, and I was really focused on eating well and the right nutritional supplements, and started sharing that with my patients. And lo and behold, they started looking better. They started feeling better, not just for sciatica, migraines, and things that I was doing hands-on. Once I really started sharing the nutritional aspects of health, it really was a game changer for me and for them, because I saw, wow, you could really make an impact with someone's total health by focusing on something that I've really kind of taken for granted, that I've eaten so well and taken care of myself for so many years. That led to me then getting really interested in nutrition and functional medicine. And of course, people have heard that term now, but 30 years ago,
what is this?
What was it?
Yeah.
So prior to functional medicine, it was called orthomolecular medicine, which is a term coined by Linus Pauling, two-time Nobel Prize winner.
Sure.
And I was fascinated with the biochemistry, that you could take somebody that was having a health problem, and by focusing on their biochemistry, where they were broken down, you could with natural over-the-counter supplements, not with drugs, and there's certainly a place for that, but you could just turn them around by focusing on the underlying root causes of their condition.
Right.
And 22 years ago, I had a patient referred to me who had fibromyalgia.
Wow.
I know. What? What is that? So she had, and those who have fibromyalgia, this is not to make them feel bad, but they oftentimes have a laundry list of symptoms.
Sure.
So the number one is pain, chronic pain, the kind of pain that sometimes you can't even get out of bed, for days. Fatigue, the kind of fatigue, again, you can't even get out of bed. Brain fog, irritable bowel. Oftentimes they have low moods. I mean, of course, who wouldn't have low moods if you're dealing with this every day?
Sure.
And so I was able to get Sheila well in 3 months. Now, for those who are watching this who have fibromyalgia, they're going, that guy's a quack. What was he doing?
It's not possible.
So, I learned quickly that it wasn't going to be that easy, because now I started getting all these referrals from the medical community in Birmingham, Alabama, where I'm from, because they heard, this guy's having luck with this thing we don't really understand called fibro. And initially I thought, oh my gosh, what am I, she got a brain tumor, when these patients are coming in, they got all these symptoms. Right. Where do I start? What do I do?
Right.
And that was really the impetus for me to go on a journey to learn everything I could about functional medicine.
Right.
And what could I do to help these individuals find and fix the underlying cause of their pain. 22 years later, 5 books and speaking tours all over, here I am.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So in its most basic form, what is fibromyalgia?
Thank you. I appreciate that, because there's still a lot of confusion, misconceptions about what it is. But fibromyalgia is a syndrome. So a syndrome is a group of symptoms that people have in common, and we can give it a name. Irritable bowel syndrome is loose bowel movements or constipation, bloating, gas, stomach pain. That's a syndrome. Irritable bowel doesn't cause irritable bowel symptoms. It's just a name we give to that condition.
Sure.
Fibromyalgia, diffuse, achy, sometimes disabling pain, fatigue, brain fog, insomnia, irritable bowel, restless leg syndrome. It's these common symptoms that people have, and we give it this name called fibromyalgia.
I see. So it can really be almost any part of your body, it's not directed to a certain part of your body, your shoulder, your arm, it's an entire series of conditions that all lead up to fibromyalgia.
It's a chronic pain condition, and it's a condition that, typically you get that ruled out. So you get autoimmune diseases ruled out, rheumatoid, Sjogren's, Reiter's, lupus, MS. But at the end of the day, after all the testing's done, what do? Now we call it fibro if you have all these symptoms and you don't have anything else. It's kind of a process of elimination. And that can be really frustrating for the patient and for doctors as well, because really there's really not a lot for these folks. So once they get that diagnosis and they get the rubber stamp, kind of says, I got fibro.
Right.
In one way, it's very liberating for the patient because they oftentimes are kind of made to believe they're either lazy,
right,
or crazy, or hypochondriac.
Right.
And there's no truth to that.
Right.
It's just that there's really nothing in traditional medicine that really works for these folks. And so eventually when they get that diagnosis, their first reaction is, I'm not crazy, I really do have something
right,
that explains all these symptoms. But then when they hear the prognosis, the recommendations of learn to live with it.
Sure.
We can try to manage it, but learn to live with it.
Here's the pill. Yeah.
But who wants to try to learn to live with chronic pain and exhaustion every day? These people lose their careers.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are on disability. They lose their friends. They can't really do anything. Their friends give up on them.
Sure.
They don't know if it's going to be a good day or a bad day, so they miss out on appointments and divorces. I mean, it just shatters people's lives, unfortunately.
Is fibromyalgia easy to diagnose?
For me, it is, because from 22 years, I can talk with somebody and within 5 minutes know do they or do they not have it.
Got it.
It's in a lot of ways, Scott. It's kind of a waste paper diagnosis. We get to everything, and then now we're going to call it fibro. So if you have diffuse, achy, more than a weekender type pain, but you have this chronic pain, and we've eliminated these other potential conditions, we're going to treat it like fibro. To me, as a practitioner, it really doesn't matter what name we give it. It could be Scott disease, it could be Roger disease. It doesn't matter. It's really all about, what's causing this pain? Where's it coming from? Or what's causing this low energy? What's causing this irritable bowel? And so oftentimes I'll get patients referred to me that may or may not have classic fibro, but that really doesn't mean anything to me anyway.
Got it. So you've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia. What next?
Well, in the conventional world, it's about, we're going to try these. There's 3 FDA-approved drugs for fibro. Now, they use all sorts. It's really kind of a plethora of let's throw stuff in the pot and see what works for these folks.
Right.
So it's not unusual in conventional medicine, which is oftentimes based on treating symptoms, and there's certainly a time and a place for that. But when you've got a dozen symptoms, if you're not careful, you're on a dozen different drugs.
Where do you go first? Right.
So you're on a drug to put you to sleep.
Right.
You're a drug to wake you up.
Right.
You're a drug to speed you up. You're a drug to slow you down. And so they get on this medical merry-go-round, and oftentimes the medications are creating a lot of the symptoms, and they don't know, is it fibro or is it the medications?
So they're just kind of shooting in the dark. I mean, best intentions, but
good intentions.
You're just kind of throwing things in the pot, like you said,
Yeah.
and looking to see whether that made a difference.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then what you're saying, I think, is that by throwing all this stuff in a pot, you're also, perhaps masking the real issue, but also you might be creating kind of this cascade effect of other things that might be going on as a result of doing all this stuff.
Absolutely. So one of the key for these folks, really, they have a condition called allodynia. It's a medical term, really, it's kind of ridiculous, right? But allodynia is low pain threshold. And in these individuals, they have a low pain threshold, just the way God made them, just the way they were, part of genetics, part of that, and just life events have brought this on. They have another condition called central sensitization syndrome, which is a mouthful to say. And that means that their nervous system is overreactive. So it picks up and registers pain in a magnified way. And that's really what's driving their, that's what's driving their pain. There's no drug to fix that.
Got it. So,
Yeah.
so in a traditional sense, step one is you may or may not be hit with this cacophony of drugs to try to knock it down or do what else. What's step two?
That's it.
That's it. That's the
Scott, that's
traditional
it.
way. It's just like
It's terrible. It's terrible.
it works. It doesn't work. I'll see you
Right.
in 6 months.
Yes.
You're crazy.
Right.
You're lazy.
Yeah.
Come back later.
Yeah. We're at the point now where rheumatologists were who were the first people to put fibromyalgia kind of on the map. The symptoms of fibromyalgia have been around for centuries. You can trace it back. But in 1991 or 92, somewhere in that area, the American College of Rheumatology came up with a criteria to be diagnosed with fibromyalgia. So they were kind of given the baton. These are the people we're going to turn to. They're going to be the specialists for fibromyalgia. We're at the point now where rheumatologists won't even take these folks.
Interesting. And why is that?
Can't help them.
I see. They've just
So
given up.
the drug therapy approach alone is a dead end, and they know that. So what they've learned, over a period of time, is this person keeps coming back, keeps complaining. They're not getting better. They're getting worse. I don't want to deal with them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if the drug approach is proven not to work, you've been diagnosed, what options are available to people that are well-meaning and people that want to get rid of this thing?
So always preface this because to get healthy.
To get
And
healthy.
that is that sounds so simplistic, and it's very complicated because your fibromyalgia is going to be different than the next person's fibromyalgia. There's some commonalities, but there's some key underlying linchpins that need to be corrected. You correct those linchpins, and now you're able to get the body to turn back on and be healthy. I mean, symptoms are a warning sign.
Sure.
It's like the car light.
Waving the hand going,
Yeah,
"There's a
something's
problem."
wrong. So we can cover it up with OxyContin, and we can do pain medications, and unfortunately, pain medications create more problems.
Sure.
And eventually they quit working. So you have more, you take more and more, stronger and stronger.